Now when we say violent, yeah, an intimidator is someone who thinks that the only way to be recognized is to instill fear. So this is someone who would, like the gentleman here was saying, the local dada, the gunda kind, someone who's extremely violent. Of course, thankfully we don't find too many, but the intimidator. This is, we're going beyond the scope of aggression. We're talking of sheer violent communication. Last control drama, and it worked with me when my parent bullied me, so I might as well do it to others. Whereas if you've had an interrogative parent, let's say if I've had a parent who's an interrogator but I'm an introvert, I will turn into an aloof. If I'm an extrovert, I'll get into the pattern of an interrogator again. So it depends on what the natural tendency of the person is. Questions too much, and if the child is a sort who is very vocal, who is an extrovert, very likely that the child will repeat the same pattern because he or she thinks it works. It's typically the sort who will put everyone down just to prove I am the best. Because script running inside says I'm not good. Because somewhere, normally aggression is caused because normally the child sees a pattern of aggression in the parent. The parent in fellowship. Whereas when you talk of people more on the aggressive side, the interrogator and the intimidator, he or she normally has a lot of network, so to say. May not be close friendships, but yes, networks are in place. So this person is not too much in need of people and friends and all of that. So in that sense, the emotional blackmail doesn't really happen. But yes, the blackmail in the sense of wanting power, yeah, that can happen. Don't connect with the person emotionally at all. Yeah. Yes. Yes, yeah, there is a fear factor, but not so much of blackmail. Yes, the person might try to threaten you and try to put you down through the questioning, but it's not so much blackmailing. Yeah. You feel let down, you feel put down, yes, but not so much of threatening. This person, see, the thing is, with an aloof and with a poor me, the person wants to be with people, wants that social connect and sense of fraternity. At an extreme level, they can get into it. Typically, the school classroom bullies that I'm sure all of us have had, or once in a while you find these people at work or in the train and wherever. So you find these extremes. They may get into a sense, it can happen, but the blackmailing pattern is more obvious here. The poor me can be a very good emotional blackmailer. Because he or she always takes you on a guilt trip. Right? Whereas an aggressive person is the sort who will try and threaten probably, but usually it doesn't work because of the fact that they talk a lot, but they will not let out information too easily, because for them information is power. And which is the reason why they ask a lot of questions, because they want the answers and they want to keep the answers to themselves, not give it out to anybody. So if you ask them a question, they'll not answer you, they'll counter question you. But when they question you, you're expected to answer. Right? So the trustworthiness comes from that fact that information is something that gives them security. Knowledge is power. That's the whole idea for them. So they can get into a pattern of being extremely bullying. Yes, it's for a point. Sorry? They tend to be? They tend to be trust. Did you have? Yes, similar. Lawyers cross-examining people in court, because the whole idea is to prove the other person wrong. Right? So, yes, there of course they are sort of role-playing it. It's not so much of a control drama all the time. They are required to do it. But yes, if it's being done when it's not required, that's a control drama. The whole idea of calling it a control drama is because you're seeking control when you don't need it. And that's why it's a drama. Otherwise, if you're role-playing it as a part of your profession, it's fine. Sometimes, let's say if you're in a meeting and you're brainstorming an idea, sometimes you might just want to play the devil's advocate and question. That's all right, but then you know your voice is in control, the body language is in control, the person doesn't feel defensive. Yeah, then he is not. Yeah. Yes. If the child is misbehaving or, like you say, taking the parents for a ride, then yes, it helps to be an interrogator to bring the child back in form. Right? Then you're not falling into a pattern. See, a pattern happens when you're not aware of it. When you're in the habit of questioning just because you're the parent, I'm supposed to question, that becomes a pattern. That's dangerous. We feel drained. We might get into mirroring the person. He questions us and we question back, then it's not a productive dialogue at all. And in any case, the person will not respond if you have a face-to-face communication early on. Later on, maybe when the person is comfortable, you can try and break the pattern even orally. It's not face-to-face, it helps to probably write down what you feel about the person and give it to the person, mail the person. Because this is a kind of a person who in front of people will always be in a defensive mode. The shield is always up. Whereas written communication works better with this kind of a person because the shield is down. You're not in front of the person. Then he or she is okay with reflecting on his or her behavior and perhaps gradually changing it about. Of course, you won't see a very drastic change. It will be very gradual because the sense of identity is very high. The recognition of ego is very high. So if I change dramatically, I'll probably feel, oh, people will think I changed because he said this. Right? So the self-esteem gets affected. So the change will be very gradual. But yes, avoid oral communication. It's best to go into a written format or work around in some other way. Not because one is, when we deal with it, it's again helps to step back. Whereas with the other two, it helps to be there for that person if we wish to bring about a change. In this case, helps to step back and communicate in a way which is not verbal. In the sense, it can be very draining to be with this kind of a person. Look at you will recognize aggression with a high pitch. Voice is normally at an extreme level. Eye contact tends to dart around. This is normally not the sort of a person who will focus on one place. He or she will be looking all over the place. Hand movements, hands flailing all around. Someone who's very restless, can't be seated at one place for a very long time. Those are typically the non-verbal signs that you have. It would be more or less like saying, oh, who did you go out with today? Did you have a good time? Right? So there the whole idea is to find out how are you and did you enjoy yourself? So the tone certainly differs here. Normally you will really inquisitive and asking a question, then the tone would definitely be different even if the words are the thing is not correct, you should listen to me. Right? The tone changes. Whereas if I'm gentle with this one, he or she is not a good person, look at where he stays. Right? That's like saying your choice is wrong, whatever you're doing, go out with, why did you have to go out? Let's say as an interrogative mother, if I tell you, wow, who did you, so that's the paradox of it, but then unfortunately the environment promotes it because of the competitive nature of the setting that we are in. It is nice to be inquisitive, but here the intent of the interrogator is to put you down, not simply to question you, right? So, yeah, the tone changes, right? So, people think you have ideas, whereas all you're doing is only questioning others' ideas. Especially in the competitive environment, because people, it's something that gives people a high visibility. Yeah, in local trains, in offices, it's a very common drama because especially in the corporate context, the advantage with being interrogative is that you get a lot of visibility. I'm sorry? Yeah, cross-verifying whatever you're saying. So even if you tell me, okay, this is how things are, I'll probably ask you, okay, where have you researched this from? How do you know this data is true? Who told this to you? It's someone who will keep cross-questioning a lot, and we find a lot of them. It's a very common control drama is in vocabulary. Yes, true. So the verbal as well as the non-verbal language is extremely aggressive here. So someone who's very high in terms of the voice, in terms of the pace of speech. He needs to be impressive because somewhere deep inside he or she feels, I'm not as good, and therefore I need to impose and keep proving the fact that yes, I am good, yes, I am the leader, and therefore I have to get my point across in whichever way possible. So this is the kind of a person, let's say, if it's a local train, he or she will be the sort who will be pushing you in, ensuring that you stand on the side, line mein khade raho. That kind of a person who's giving you directions constantly, whether you need it or not. Very easy to spot because the body language is very, very clearly aggressive, very clearly pushy. This again is critical, that's the hallmark of someone who's an interrogator. Someone who typically an interrogator mother would be the sort who would say, why did you come late? Who were you going out with? Why were you going out with this person?
They're aggressive. They end up in a fight.
No, not that much. These guys are very verbally aggressive. In the sense, the interrogator term by itself says they question you a lot. So aggression is by proving that you are wrong. So it's more of an intellectual aggression, not so much physical. Very intellectual. Not so much. That will be the intimidator. That's an extreme.
Not getting
Happening. Again, control drama, because he or she is looking at attention, looking at gaining energy from people, and definitely comes from a sense of insecurity. Don't you know how to manage your PPT? That's the sort of a person who has a lot of questions, who has a lot of criticism, criticizing more than critiquing. Someone who says, oh, this shirt doesn't suit you. What color are you wearing? What is this presentation? That's the second pattern. The third one is again a fairly common one, the interrogator. Okay. Someone who is your average bully, questioning. It's not as bad as a poor me. Yes, but the thing with poor me is he talks, but he doesn't listen. Yeah. Yeah, they're not expressive at all. True. That's true. They're not expressive at all, and especially if it's an aloof child, really needs attention, because if at a childhood stage it's easy to move from aloof to poor me. And then these are kids who end up being those rebellious teenagers. Normally, if the aloofness is not tackled in the childhood, you will find a lot of problems happening in the teenage. So, if it's a child that you're dealing with, if he or she is aloof, please make an attempt to talk and engage the child. So aloof needs a lot of patience, but still a manageable pattern. Yes, because what happens is after a while it feels like you're being drained out of energy. With a poor me, he or she positively looks at draining out energy. Whereas with an aloof, you think it's a one-way dialogue that's happening. So somewhere you will need to engage in a way where the person is also contributing. Staring at the wall or looking at the ground. That's a kind of aloof body language. Whereas a poor me will be looking at everybody and saying, look at me. Whereas an aloof is someone who's not even bothered to connect. Well, yeah, harsh term, but close. It is not with the general group. The eye contact is in a way that the person is staring somewhere in... No, the eye contact... Oh yes, Yes, very clearly spotted. Either through the body language, the way they speak. Yes. Yeah. Aloof is a person who, it's about we, because the person wants that embrace, the social, the emotional embrace, whereas here it's a lot about you, because he feels I'm not being listened to. So when you say you, it helps. Right? Whereas when you talk of a poor me, yes, yeah, yes. And again, here the language is a lot about you.